Ooh.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live presentation tonight on open enrollment. We are glad to welcome our dear friend Neil Carey from Healthcare Solutions. So glad that you're able to join us tonight. And Neil is going to walk us through questions from A to Z on insurance, really getting to know your own insurance policy, to how to walk through open enrollment, how to select a policy, to questions even about Medicaid. So we really are thrilled to have Neil here with us tonight. He does a lot of work with many CBI families and has been able to help them find the policies for their kiddos to be able to get the coverage they need for ABA. So we are, again, thrilled to have you with us. I'm going to let Neil take over from this point, and we're going to just kind of walk through some general questions tonight. We're going to start with Neil. Why don't you tell us what open enrollment is?
Hi, Jean. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity so that we can explore and help families and individuals with their kids and trying to navigate through the complexity of insurance and trying to find coverage that is needed for their kids. So the open enrollment is essentially it is a period in the year where the government sets for all families and individuals to look for their own insurance plan. In the state of Illinois, actually in all states, it starts November 1st and goes through to almost the end of the year. But it changes every year. They change the times on it. And just knowing that it starts November 1st, I think it ends December 15th. That will be the period that you want to purchase a plan that would cover health insurance for any individuals or families.
Why don't you tell me why it's important to take advantage of this special time frame that the government sets aside for us?
Okay. Yeah, it is. It's very important because the insurance underneath the Affordable Care Act, which I'm sure everybody watches on TV, there's going to be a lot of changes. But right now, we're gonna work with what we have, and it is important because these are the times to get the insurance to cover families and kids or individuals for their pre-existing conditions. This is the time you want to get it. It's very comprehensive. It guarantees those pre-existing coverages.
Why don't you share with us some information about the Illinois mandate to cover ABA versus self-funded and employee insurance?
Great question. Well, group coverage does cover ABA sometimes, but due to the expense of the treatments, groups will basically audit and they'll reevaluate families, individuals on their expenses. And kids have to go through, they have to go through their evaluations every year. That could be kind of tough for kids to do and families as well. I can't imagine what that's like, but a lot of groups will then sometimes discontinue that coverage. So then you got to go to another market to figure out where to find that. Union plans do the same thing. It does cover ABA therapy, but eventually they find out what the expense is on that, and they don't want to cover it. So then they decide not to at usually an anniversary period or whenever the insurance period started, and then the families have to start from scratch. So on the individual market, families can get an individual plan. There is no limits to it because the federal and state mandates. So state mandates preclude federal mandates. In the state of Illinois, regardless of what the federal mandate says, the state of Illinois says if you purchase a plan that is not subsidized, it is paid directly off exchange, you can purchase a plan. It has to be a PPO network because that's the network that gives you the most amount of coverage, then there's no limits to the treatments that a child can receive. And that's really important, because as long as you keep paying the premiums on the plan, now the plans can change every year depending on the government, but they don't vary too much. The families can keep those plans. That's the primary coverage for the child. And by having that, they can keep going year after year through their therapies, whether that's just an evaluation, a quick visit, this is up to the provider, but I mean, even sometimes as far as like daycare, they can spend days there every week and go through those treatments and get what they need.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit about explaining the basics of insurance and understanding an actual insurance plan? From, like, how do I know if I have an insurance plan? How am I knowing when I meet my deductible, or what does that really mean? Can you kind of get into a little bit more in depth on that for us?
Yeah, okay. That can be a little extensive, and I know that's very complicated to some people. So there's something what's called a stop loss. Okay, stop loss is kind of where it comes to your worst case scenario. So if you were in a hospital for, say, a week, that could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And your requirement then is your deductible. The deductible could be $750, could be $2,200, could be even $6,000. Those all change or coordinate with the premiums. Obviously, with a higher deductible, you can have a lower premium. A lower deductible, you're going to have a higher premium. Now, with the government in Illinois, with the Blue Cross plans, let's say, they have differences in the daily benefits too, like the outpatient services. So co-pays can be lower on, let's say, a gold plan than a bronze. A bronze may not have co-pays at all, and everything's subject to your deductible. So what you do is, if you're going through treatments and let's say you have a $100,000 hospital bill, if I'm on a gold plan, I pay my $750 deductible up front. That $100,000 bill is reduced by $750 deductible. Now, after your deductible, there's typically a co-insurance. Most people understand 80-20. So you pay 20% up to the next step, which is your out-of-pocket. Your out-of-pocket with the $750 deductible, I'd have to do the math, but it's around, it's going to be around 7,000 something, because the mandate says for a bronze, silver, or gold, for each person, the maximum out-of-pocket is $8,150. That's $8,150. Once you hit your maximum out-of-pocket, then the insurance company covers at 100% for the rest of the calendar year. Now, if a child is going in for a quick evaluation on some of these plans that have co-pays, it is not subject to your deductible. It may just be a $10 or $20 copay. But that all comes down to the provider, the treatment, and what's called a Cpt code. The Cpt code is the language between the providers and the insurance companies. So if I go in to see a doctor for a 15-minute visit, the Cpt code will say, doctor visit 15 minutes, pay a copay. If I go into the doctor and the doctor says, well, I want to go in and have some testing because we found maybe an abnormal something on your chest or in your heart, then we're going to want to put you into the hospital. We're going to do some EKGs and other things. Now it rolls into your deductible. So it really depends on the treatment. But you want a stop loss because a stop loss protects families from extensive cost paying out of pocket.
Can you explain a little bit more about what exactly a stop cost is, or how do you add that to a policy? I actually have not, I'm not familiar with that myself.
Okay, sure. Stop losses are, so personally I have a $5,000 deductible. My co-insurance is 100%. So if I go to the hospital and my medical bill is $100,000, I pay $5,000, and then the insurance company covers 100% after that. That is my stop loss. Stop loss means the stop of your financial losses for medical expenses. So what they do is it's kind of like a payment plan. If you go with a low deductible, then they put it in installments. The installments is what's called a co-insurance. 80-20, 80% pays, 20% is what I pay. Now, what I pay that 20% up to is the next level, which is an out-of-pocket beyond that. Since my plan is 100%, I don't have that. All I pay is my deductible, which is my stop loss. For most of the plans, you have your deductible, which you pay up front. Then you pay your percentage of 20, 30, or whatever percent up to the next amount. And once you hit that at that percentage, then you're done for the calendar year. So it starts with a deductible, co-insurance. I know it sounds very complicated, but if you just look at your deductible and what your maximum out of pocket is, then you know what you're going to spend for the calendar year. And the federal government sets these guidelines. In this year, it's set for $8,150 per person on an Affordable Care Act plan. That is your maximum out of pocket every year.
I have a question. In regards to like a family policy, do you end up having just one family deductible that you have to meet, or does each person under the policy have their own out-of-pocket expense?
Another great question. There is an individual deductible, but a family deductible typically is if you have two people, like a husband and wife, then you pay that deductible twice. What if you have three people? Well, your maximum deductible is 2 times per family. In this case, I believe this year they may have gone to a 3-tier. So there's 3 deductibles per family. If you have a family of 6, you have to hit 3 of those deductibles and maximum out of pockets before it covers the entire. So they have to keep grading these plans because the cost of healthcare is so expensive, it's so complicated, and they're not getting the funding. So they have to basically keep putting more liability on the families. So most of these plans, though, for kids, we just do them individually. For parents and other family members that are healthy, we can put you on another plan that's outside the exchange that is not ACA compliant, and that will give you a lower cost with better network coverage, typically. But when it comes to families, there can be multiple deductibles, no higher than 3 typically. It just depends on the size of the family.
Okay, that's great to know, because I know that comes up a lot. People are always confused on, did I meet my deductible or did I not? Or they'll say, oh, well, so-and-so went to the hospital this year, I'm sure we've met it. And then they find out that they haven't. So there becomes a lot of confusion sometimes on that angle.
Yeah, it can also be confusing in the sense that if one person uses the insurance, it won't go into the 2nd or 3rd tier. It stays only with that one deductible. Now, if, let's say, in a grotesque scenario, a whole family of 6 is in a bus and they fall off a cliff into the ocean, they're only going to hit the maximum of 3. But if 2 people, like a husband and wife, need treatments, it's only going to be 2 out of the 3. So it kind of works within there. The worst case scenario is up to 3 per household.
Great. Thanks for making that clear. I appreciate that.
Sorry.
Moving on to another thing that we always get asked about is Medicaid, especially here in Illinois with ABA. As we know, in the state of Illinois, unfortunately, right now, Medicaid is not covering ABA services. But what can those families who have Medicaid do? Are there other options? Can they get another policy just for the kid?
Well, okay. So with Medicaid in Illinois, if anybody obviously is listening from Illinois, they know that there's budget situations in Illinois. So it struggles to cover a lot of their entitlements. Medicaid is one of those. Medicaid itself is Look at it like this. Medicaid is like a group or union plan. They will cover everything, even though it's mandated by their own laws for most treatments, but ABA just hasn't fallen into the fold yet. So they won't cover those treatments through Medicaid. And that's a big problem for a lot of families because, for single households and kids and income problems with, the economy, with COVID, the pandemic and everything, whether you lost your job, you apply for Medicaid. Yes, it does give kids certain coverages, but not for ABA. ABA in Medicaid, Illinois, it just won't cover it. The only way you can do it is through the marketplace, and that is what we just talked about before, through like a direct plan off exchange, typically with Blue Cross PPO.
Can you have Medicaid and then also have a private plan?
Another great question. You could. Technically, you couldn't use them both, but for some families, there have been in cases where they weren't sure that they could qualify, maybe because of the parameters of applying for a Blue Cross ACA plan. I would recommend you keep your Medicaid in place, because if you don't qualify or you don't apply and they don't approve that policy for the child, you want to have something to fall back onto. If any families out there know, when you apply for Medicaid, it's not a simple process. You can keep them both. Technically, by law, you can't file claims between two, and that's really what comes to the purchase of plan, unit health. You're just going to use all three of those plans for like single claims within a year. So you can keep those plans technically, but you wouldn't want to use them combined together. It wouldn't even make sense, because if a child was on a Blue Cross plan, you really want everything to go towards your stop loss, the deductible, and the out-of-pocket, so that the insurance company will come in and take care of everything else for the rest of the calendar year. Plus the fact that with a Blue Cross plan, your networks are going to be more broad than a Medicaid network. I'm sure there's a lot of families out there that understand that. And if anybody out there does have questions, the information is down below. We do one-on-one evaluations, and we'll help advise families and individuals on how that works.
Thanks, Neil, for explaining that. I know Medicaid is kind of a crazy thing. Can you kind of cover what the pros and cons of purchasing a private plan with Medicaid is? Because I know that it gets a little bit tricky on that angle too. So, like, are they going to lose benefits, for example? Can you kind of discuss a little bit more about that?
No. Medicaid works as Medicaid works. That's through the Social Security office, and that would be something that you work with a social worker on at your local. Now with the pandemic, things have gotten more complicated there too. So whether you can meet them face to face, or if that's an online kind of thing, that would be through your Social Security office. Blue Cross itself would be Blue Cross itself also. So Blue Cross, like an off exchange ACA plan, would be your primary, and then Medicaid itself would be a secondary. If at some point they're going to ask, because I believe with Medicaid you get audited. Now, every situation and person and family is different. How you deal with your caseworker. So usually they'll ask, do you have another alternative insurance primary plan or something like that? If they find out, then typically they'll withdraw it, and then you're going to just rely on the Blue Cross ACA plan.
So if you had to either pick staying with Medicaid or getting a private plan, what would you recommend?
Well, the downside is you're going to have to pay for an ACA plan. There is a premium on it, where Medicaid is free. It's like I said, an entitlement that comes through the state government. But your Blue Cross plan is going to be more comprehensive. It gives you more coverage than what Medicaid does. One of the biggest things of it is the network. Medicaid has a very narrow network because it has such low reimbursements. Most providers don't want to take Medicaid, where with Blue Cross, you can see the best providers, such as Northwestern, DuPage Medical Center. Almost all the providers now in Illinois accept it with the PPO. With Medicaid, you would not be able to do that. There are some state-funded plans. Now, I'm not really familiar with this. We're looking into this, and we'll talk about this on a one-to-one basis. But there does seem to be some grants out there. I was seeing that, and I'm not sure how that works. I mean, I know how grants work, but how this specific grant works towards like ABA therapies, there is some material out there. It's fairly new, so we can supply you with the information on that. But that would be more of like a self-exploration kind of thing. We can advise you on it, but we can't really assist in the process because it goes through Springfield, the government of or the state of Illinois. So financial aid and outreach. I mean, the providers that we work with, like CBI, is great. The girls and guys there, everybody is great. They do coordinate and work with us directly. So when it comes to coordinating your plan and making sure it's in place, they work with the treatments and the Cpt codes. So there's like a trifecta here of the family, us as a team on the insurance side, and then the providers also that work in unison to make sure that the children get what they need as far as the treatments go, and then coordinating those benefits together. There is a great way to get in touch with us besides the information down below. Gene, I'm going to switch over to our website here. I'm going to go over to it right now if you're okay with that. Are you ready?
Go ahead, Neil.
It is Integrity Insurance Advisors. Here it is. It's a website. This is basically just a good way to get in touch with us. If you want to give us your contact information, there's nothing, no privacy. There's nothing personal in here. You just basically type in. It does tell you a little bit about us. It gives you a little description down here about ABA Autism Speaks. And what you do is you just type in, if you want to apply now, you click there. On the website, you type in a contact name. One moment. There we go. Email address, phone number, and zip code, and get a quote. We've got a team of probably about half a dozen to a dozen agents that are very familiar with this across the country that are mostly local in Illinois and can help assist with this. But we've been working with CBI now for probably 4 or 5 years at least, and we've had great results.
Great, Neil. Thanks for sharing the website too. That's really helpful.
Sure.
Well, I really think that I didn't see any questions come in from our viewers online, but I really wanted to just thank you again for covering such great information. I know these are questions that for us come up every day with the families that we're dealing with. So we really appreciate you spending the time and being able to share it with our Facebook family as well tonight. Again, this is Jean from the Outreach Department of CBI, and we can be reached at cbitherapy.com. And Neil's contact information is on that ticker below. We'll also make sure that we post it in the post so that you can have direct contact with Neil and his team. We thank you again tonight, Neil, for joining us, and thanks everybody for taking time out of your Friday night to join us. Have a great one. Thanks, Neil.
Have a great weekend. Thank you, everybody.